Well, be honest. Have you ever felt a deeper connection with your dog or cat than with, say, most of your coworkers? Because a recent study actually found that over half of pet owners prefer their pet over their own best friend. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to decode a super fascinating behavioral phenomenon. We're looking at the psychology behind why some of us absolutely prefer the company of animals over humans, and we're going to unpack the science of what this actually reveals about your unique psychology.
So, when given the choice between attending a massive, crowded social event or just staying home on the couch with your pet, do you almost always choose your pet? Look, society loves to label people who consistently make this choice as antisocial, weird, or maybe even incapable of handling normal human relationships. We've all heard the stereotypes, right? Psychologists actually call this the introversion stigma, which is basically this heavy societal pressure to conform to highly extroverted norms. But the actual science of psychology says something completely different about what's happening under the hood. Here is the real deal. You are not broken. Preferring the company of animals over humans doesn't mean you're flawed in any way. In fact, it usually reveals a deeply complex cognitive processing style. It shows that you have a highly tuned nervous system that just interacts with the world differently. You aren't avoiding people. You're actually managing a very specific neurological bandwidth. Okay, let's dive right into this and break down the 5 psychological traits that explain exactly why this happens. Our very first psychological trait is high social sensitivity. Notice that word rapidly. Basically, psychology tells us that some of us just naturally have a more sensitive nervous system. It's not a fault, it just means that social situations literally drain your energy reserves way faster than they do for average folks. It's a biological reality of how your brain processes external stimuli. Your sensory gates are essentially swung wide open, so you are absorbing a ton more emotional and physical data in a crowded room than other people do. Just think about what hanging out with people actually demands of you. It's constant active observation. You're doing all this emotional masking. You know, that polite frozen smile you have to plaster on during a 2-hour networking event, or nodding enthusiastically to a story you've literally heard 3 times. You have to constantly read between the lines to catch every subtle change in tone and logic. It is completely exhausting. Animals, on the other hand, just offer a quiet presence. They don't demand that massive mental effort. So when you choose to chill with your pet, you're actively protecting your precious cognitive bandwidth. You're giving your brain permission to burn way less energy. Let's move on to our second trait, which is all about your inherent demand for authenticity. People who prefer animals almost always have a much higher standard for connection. If you have this trait, you probably despise small talk, fake friendships, and draining personalities. You are all about quality over quantity. Because your brain is naturally wired for deep cognitive engagement, it inherently rejects interactions that just feel empty or surface level. You simply do not have the patience for the performance art of casual socializing. Which brings us to this incredibly refreshing truth. Animals cannot lie. They cannot manipulate you. They literally don't know how to engage in superficial chatter. They provide the pure, authentic connection that a high-functioning, sensitive mind naturally craves. They let you entirely bypass the exhausting theater of human relationships and get straight to genuine, unpretentious connection. I mean, there are absolutely no hidden agendas with a golden retriever, right? Moving right along, let's look at the third psychological trait, guarding your trust threshold. Psychology shows us that our past experiences heavily shape our emotional boundaries. If you've been through betrayal, neglect, or even if you've just found yourself surrounded by the wrong people for way too long, your brain adapts. It learns. It becomes highly protective and selective to make sure you don't get hurt again. This boundary is what we call your trust threshold. And from an evolutionary standpoint, this isn't just a quirky emotional wall, it's a profound survival mechanism. Your brain is literally rewiring itself to prioritize environments where it feels completely secure. Consider the stark contrast here. Human beings can be incredibly unpredictable and complex. You never quite know where you stand or when the emotional rug might be pulled right out from under you. But animals, they offer absolute, unconditional loyalty and a profound sense of psychological safety. Preferring animals isn't you running away from the world. It's your brain's adaptive, incredibly smart way of fulfilling your deep human need for companionship without risking the pain of a broken trust threshold. Our fourth point is all about escaping the exhausting, invisible social rules that come with human relationships. We all know the drill. Human relationships come with these endless, unwritten obligations. You got to reply to texts within a certain window. You have to act a specific way.
You have to manage everyone else's expectations, to code what a period at the end of a sentence means, and drag yourself to social events you never really wanted to attend in the first place. Cognitive scientists talk about Dunbar's number, suggesting we can only really maintain about 150 stable relationships. And honestly, managing even a tiny fraction of those requires massive cognitive overhead. It's completely overwhelming, especially if you strongly value your autonomy and want to stay in control of your own time and energy.
Engaging with people can sometimes feel like playing a digital slot machine. Psychologists actually call it variable reward reinforcement, where people's reactions and moods are totally unpredictable. That unpredictability keeps your brain in a draining state of low-level anticipation, constantly trying to guess what the other person wants or needs next. Animals simply do not impose those invisible rules. They don't put you on an emotional roller coaster. They just exist right there with you, offering pure peace rather than constant variable pressure. And finally, let's explore our fifth psychological trait, possessing a truly rich inner world. Now let's contrast this with a baseline. A lot of people exhibit high social dependency, which means they need constant human interaction because they fundamentally rely on external validation to feel good about themselves. They need the crowd to tell them who they are. But if you prefer your pets, you likely exhibit what psychologists call low social dependency. You absolutely do not need a massive circle around you to feel complete. You rely on self-validation. You already know exactly who you are without a crowd having to tell you. What's truly fascinating is that psychologists note that people who spend more time away from large, draining social circles often develop some remarkable cognitive benefits. They possess a stronger inner world, a significantly richer imagination, and a profoundly deeper sense of self-awareness. Your mind is a busy, highly creative place, and it thrives in environments that give it the physical and mental space to just wander and reflect. And this beautifully illustrates why a pet is the perfect companion for that exact kind of mind. You prefer the company of animals because they share your peaceful solitude. They sit with you in the quiet, rather than interrupting your natural thought flow with unnecessary noise or demands. They are the ultimate, perfect complement to a deeply rich inner world. Let's bring all of this together for a really empowering conclusion. The next time someone judges you for treating your pet like your best friend, or questions why you want to stay home on a Friday night with your dog or cat, I want you to stop feeling guilty. You aren't antisocial, and you certainly aren't broken. As we've explored today, your preference simply reveals that you have a higher standard for connection. It shows a highly protective, intelligent awareness of your own trust threshold. And most importantly, it highlights that you have a mind that requires deep, authentic peace to function at its absolute best. So I want to leave you with this question to chew on. What does your preference for peaceful connection reveal about your own brilliant, unique psychology? Take a moment to really appreciate the complexity of your own nervous system. If you love exploring the psychology behind human behavior and learning exactly why people think and act the way they do, make sure to hit subscribe. We don't just learn facts here, we decode the human experience. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.